Okay, welcome everybody to our board and advisory group meeting for DDEV. Great to see you. Let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. I think maybe we all know each other, but uh, and Benny, if you prefer to do by text, you're welcome to. Um, I'm Randy Fay, one of the maintainers of DDEV. I'm in Palisade, Colorado, where summer has begun when spring should only be beginning. And we've had some absolutely beautiful weather, great mountain biking and riding weather and everything else. But it's not supposed to be like this, I'm quite sure. So, Andrew, go ahead.
Yes, hello. My name's Andrew Berry. I'm the VP of Technology at Lullabot. We're a predominantly Drupal focused, but do work outside of Drupal now too in design and strategy and a little bit of WordPress and all those things that are engineering related. We use DDEV.
Very cool. I didn't know you were doing some WordPress.
Just a little. We did one project last year, and we've got one this year that hasn't launched yet, but will be soon.
We have DDEV has never really had satisfactory approach to WordPress, and I'm hoping to work on that a bit. Um, Actually, in this release cycle, we've been, but anyway, I've never been satisfied with it, and we've had some suggestions lately for good ways to improve it, and we can break Bedrock out of it and make it a separate project type because it's so different.
Mm,
And
mm.
anyway, I'm interested in your I don't know whether you're working on those WordPress projects, but whoever is, their feedback and interest would be very welcome. Uh, Mark, go ahead.
Sure. Hello. I am Mark Lebrec. I have been a developer for many years. I'm located in Vancouver, BC. I work for Affinity Bridge. We do, again, like Andrew, we do primarily Drupal, but increasingly more WordPress. So happy to weigh in on that discussion as well. Um, yeah, that's it for me.
Very cool. Great to have you. Um, Benny, do you want to say something or introduce yourself or not?
I'll try. So I'm Benny from Germany. I'm working with DDEV and Typo 3 for a long time. Currently, I'm out sick. Somehow, some of my bones in my spine broke, and nobody knows why. So I have to lie in bed for most of the day. But things are getting better, so I'm slowly progressing and doing work again after 2 months. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, so things are okay. Even though it sounds really bad, it is bad, but it's been quite some time. So from the recovery, and the whole thing happened during Christmas Eve, so it was the worst timing of all in the year. Yes, and I'm happy to be here and listening in, and just knowing what's going on. Actually, just as a side note, because I'm working with Typo 3 CMS, but I'll be joining in 3 weeks the CloudFest hackathon, and working together with people from WordPress on cross CMS collaboration topics. So glad to see that there's some traction from people who are using WordPress with DDEV, and hopefully I have more information on our next call about this.
That's great. Well, we're great to have you here, and I'm glad you're better, but it sounds like a terrible long haul having to just like lay there hoping your bones will heal. That doesn't
Yeah,
sound
and
very fun.
bones healing takes like years, apparently. So,
Wow. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. I we've had a good contingent of WordPress users over years, but never anything like proportional to the importance of WordPress in the market that we're in. So we, it really can be better, and hopefully we can make some progress on it. WordPress is, kind of screwy in its own special ways, and it's harder to deal with some things. And the WordPress community of developers often there's a large number of people that uh, use, shall we say, less formal techniques of development and that kind of thing, and that affects things as well. But
could you be any more politically careful?
Everybody has their own way, right? So,
yeah.
Chris, great to see you. Go ahead and say hello.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Wells. I do my work primarily in Drupal. I'm the CTO at Redfin Solutions. And I was for Drupal, the project browser initiative lead. Well, I still am, but things have ramped down on that project a little bit. And when we moved this back to 10 a.m. Eastern, it conflicted with my project browser meeting. So now that those are kind of winding down, I'm able to be back and I'm happy to be here.
We're very glad to have you. Very cool. Matthew.
Yeah, I'm Matthew Saunders. Longtime Drupler, about 20 years in the community. Also a longtime user of DDEV, and I think friend of Randy Fay. And I work for Amazy currently as their AI ambassador, which is a fancy way of saying developer relations. And I'm really here just to listen in, and if I've got anything that's interesting or helpful from the nonprofit standpoint. I've got a long tenure on boards and running nonprofits and so on. So I just thought that I would maybe be able to lend a little bit of a hand in on that space. I'm also involved with the Drupal AI strategic initiative. I'm the events lead for the marketing team in that space, and I'm really happy to be here. And I'm going to be interested to be a fly on the wall.
We're very happy to have you this morning. That's great. Mike, go ahead.
Hey, I'm here. I'm on the West Coast right now, so I'm up early making breakfast, and no one needs to see that, so I'm gonna leave my camera off. But yeah, good morning, Mike Anello, longtime Drupal person, longtime DDEV person, and yeah, I'm not sure what else to throw in there. Good to see everyone though. So Benny, wow, Benny, I'll keep you in my thoughts. That just sounds like you are going through a trial. So.
You literally turned your camera on for us to watch you make your breakfast.
Well, you can't see it. If I raise my avocado, then you can see it. But, yeah. While I'm speaking, I'm going to turn it on. Come on, man. I'm trying to be polite. Although in this kitchen I'm standing, it looks like I have a halo if I stand in the right place. So
yeah, it's good to have somebody with a halo here. So that's
but good to see everyone for sure.
Selwyn, go ahead. Oh, muted.
Sorry. I said, Mike, are you going to weigh in on the status of WordPress?
Am I going to weigh in on that? No, I am not going to weigh in. I think Randy said it just fine.
Okay, my name's Selwyn Pollitt, Drupal developer for a pretty good long time, DDEV user for a pretty good long time, and author of Drupal at Your Fingertips. And yeah, happy to be here and hanging with you guys. Always fun to hear Randy and Stas's latest exploits.
All right, great to see you. Stas, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Stas Zhuk. I'm from Kremenchuk, Ukraine. I'm a maintainer of DDEV, and as for frameworks and all integrations that we have, I just wanted to say that we rely on users' input on this. So if we are talking about WordPress, we are going to do everything what's going to make WordPress users happy. We just need someone to tell us what we need to do.
Yeah, that's actually one of the real struggles that we've had with WordPress is we haven't had, well, both we don't understand WordPress perfectly, and there is a lot of different kind of WordPress, and so our the user engagement, we've had a couple of people with good suggestions over the years, and we have one active guy who is always tossing things in, which is good. And he's a dedicated DDEV user, but he's very opinionated about WordPress, and we can find a way to use that and hopefully make him happier. I should mention that we have that Andrew and Benny and Mike are board members, and that Mike is our treasurer, which is really a lovely thing. So we have, we're slightly improving our governance, and we're slightly improving our financial controls by having, Mike is writing. Mike is sending any of the significant expenses and that sort of thing instead of me now. So that's a step forward for us. So that's a nice thing. We actually have a treasurer, and we had a glitch in understanding how to use our wise.com, and Mike and I were able to sort that out with a share. So that was good. I don't have a bunch of things. You probably already saw the agenda that I just put here. The first thing that I wanted to do is looking around, I don't see that any of you have hit the BuildX friction that we have hit in the last couple of releases. So I'll ask Stas to explain what happened and why, and what our reaction is to this point, and where we're going to go with that. Docker BuildX is a Docker plugin that Compose started actually enforcing its requirement on. So anyway, go ahead, Stas.
Yeah, so we have several plugins that we use in Docker, and Compose and BuildX are the one we use. And several releases ago, Docker Compose started requiring a specific version of Docker BuildX. And as you know, Docker uses some builder to make its images. Like when you start DDEV locally, it's going to build something on top of our image, like add your user inside the web container so you can access it like usual. And this Docker BuildX needs to be installed on your system, and we have some problems with understanding where to find it and how to explain to people how to link it correctly, because our Docker Compose needs it, but it doesn't know where to find it if certain conditions are met. For example, if you use Lima or Colima on macOS, or you are using Nix OS, it's a recent issue. And the problem is that there is a configuration for Docker in your home directory. You can have config.json in .docker directory. It's home.docker and config.json. And you can add extra configuration directories to that config. And as I said, it's a problem mostly not for everyone, because OrbStack or Docker Desktop or Rancher takes care of such stuff, so you don't need to configure anything. And right now, you just need to link the Docker build-text to the correct location on your system, so we can find it in DDEV. And I started experimenting with this, how to make it better. And in the next DDEV release, we are going to have Docker build-text installed in our global DDEV config directory. And as you know, we use Docker Compose, our own private binary, and it's located in your home .ddev/bin/Docker Compose. We are going to get rid of that. We are switching to Docker Compose SDK for our DDEV project. So it's going to be easier. In this way, we're getting rid of one more external dependency, but we are adding another one for Docker build-text. And it's still work in progress, but I have good results. So I think it's probably going to be much better in the next release. And I'm also going to prepare a blog post about these changes and what we have right now. So it's going to be published on ddev.com. So we can, so if everyone is interested or have some problems, they can just go and read and make it work.
Nice. Thanks, and congratulations on the success figuring out how to integrate Compose there. I know just yesterday you thought that was a failure, and
Yes, because the main problem is that several Docker binaries, they use the same code. They actually reuse it, but we can modify it in DDEV, but it's not modified in Docker. Some like Docker CLI, Docker build-text, Docker Compose. These all are separate projects. So we consolidate everything in DDEV. So all parts are going to be here without any dependency. Like so we won't have such problems in the future.
we have been pretty successful for actually several years at isolating ourselves from Docker weirdness and Docker changes and sudden Docker bugs by having that private compose. And we actually did that because they were introducing massive new bugs in every release early in the Compose 2 cycle. For about a year, it was not good. And so we went, we started getting our own private version and fixing the version, and that was great. And then all of a sudden, we had this Build X thing show up in the fall, and it affected people who weren't using the official Docker packages, which if they were using it, they would have Build X. But it affected my little server, which uses the Ubuntu packages. The NixOS people are all messed up with it because they have a patched setup. So it caught us by surprise. Both the version requirement and the requirement of having BuildX were external things that we had not really had to deal with. And like Stas said, the problem was mostly irrelevant to the vast majority of people because, OrbStack or, almost everybody had BuildX. So anyway, it looks like due to Stas finding the path and beating down the AI, we'll have a better and more controlled environment for that again.
Yeah, and also about AI, just this Docker Compose SDK is a new thing. So it was released only several weeks ago, or maybe a month or two. So AI doesn't really know how to use it correctly. So it's better to look up it myself because it doesn't really find the right way to do it. It's probably the main problem with AI because it reuses some old techniques, like it doesn't really know if everything, like something new is released. So it needs some time for this.
If any of you or your teams do have any friction with this, we already know all of the workarounds, and they're all easy. They're you know, the only place where people are struggling a little bit is on NixOS, which we don't actually support, but we help them. But we do support it, and we help them out with it. So, and there's a patch in play for their package there.
But that's what I was going to ask. I'm trying to just understand like who is potentially affected by this. And
I didn't exactly understand the last few words.
oh no, I'm sorry. I'm not sure I fully understand who could be affected by this issue.
Yeah, people on Linux that don't have BuildX, people on Mac OS that don't have BuildX installed or configured, people on NixOS. So Mike, you are a Tolima user, no, right?
Rancher. No, I'm
Rancher, you're a Rancher.
Yeah.
So Rancher took care of this for you.
So
Tolima,
it's
yeah,
only newer versions of Docker where it's no longer included and it has to be included manually? Is that the right
No,
way of saying it?
No.
it's
Okay.
if people have old stuff is basically it. So
Yeah, BuildX
I
is
use
a new plugin. So
Okay.
I use Lima, and I've had it installed for a very long time because you need it if you want to do cross-architecture builds. And so I also think like even if the desktop apps are solving it, there's probably a lot more overlap between people using tools like Lima and people who care about building for ARM and x86 on the same or x64 on the same machine. So like they probably have installed BuildX years ago and forgotten about it.
right.
I know I did.
Yeah. So people that had it were fine, but we did have a very experienced developer on Mac OS this week who said, "Hey, it just blew up on me because we didn't. I don't know that we said in 1.25.1 because people were having random problems that we were not expressing adequately. We added a hard requirement of having BuildX. And so V1.25.1 turned the little dribble of what do I do now into I can't start DDEV when they didn't have BuildX. So we've had a few things about that. But this one person in the Drupal world was using Colima and had never installed BuildX, and so had to brew install Docker BuildX and then configure it in their config.json to make it work. So yeah. Anyway, like I say, these are all not very hard, but we just don't like people to have that kind of friction, and we don't like having different piece parts that are required on the Docker side. In fact, we don't use the Docker CLI anymore, right? We're completely out of the business, aren't we, Stas?
yes, we completely got rid of it
Yeah.
and don't use it anymore.
So we are completely out of the business of using the Docker CLI, and we don't use their Docker Compose. And so until a couple of months ago, we were isolated from the problems of the Docker CLI and its configuration. And that's when this started popping back in. So, and thanks to Stas, we'll be creating our own problems instead of other people creating them pretty soon. So, any questions on that whole thing? Comments or anything?
Have we
Yeah, go ahead.
reported any of this upstream to the Docker BuildX or open source folks? Like, I'd be curious if they care at all about breaking downstream projects like this.
Apparently not, because they added the BuildX requirement, the hard version requirement.
If we did not bump Docker Compose, it wouldn't happen. So it's totally upstream change, and we need to catch up with what they provide.
The biggest reason we try to stay with Compose because it is a fundamental layer below DDEV, and so if we were to leave it alone for a year or something, anyway, we try to keep with it as we do releases, but we can do a full test run and see if it works. But in this particular case, at about the same time that the BuildX requirement was introduced, they also fixed a long-standing, very annoying bug in the image download problem, the progress of the image download when you do a Docker Compose build. And we were so happy to see that. It was such a nice fix, and it looks so nice in these last couple of releases of DDEV when we used the new Compose, which also introduced the BuildX problems. We're really happy to have that progress bar not be such a mess.
It does look really good. I noticed it too.
So much better. Yeah. Hey, I don't know whether it's worth having the BuildX problem, but it's and you all know that we had a major release in January 1.25.0, which had many significant changes, including the change of the DDEV web server being built on Debian Trixie, which solves a number of problems. But of course, when you make a change like that, there will be friction. Actually, I would say that there's probably been less friction than there could have been, partly because Stas went and made an add-on for NVM, because we removed NVM from the web server, so he replaced that with an add-on. There's some friction, and of course 1.25.1 reacted to some of the friction, and I think like most of the things except BuildX were sorted out there. So it's and I think probably you've seen the blog posts and the announcements about those things. Any comments on the new releases or their impacts on you or your teams or?
Smooth sailing.
The worst was like having to update some custom Docker files and so on for Debian 13, and teams who are working on multiple projects where some projects were updated to work with it and some weren't. And just because you had to, there was files, if I remember right, either in the .ddev directory in a project or in the global directory that had from the router that had to be removed for when you downgraded. And there's a issue out there that says to do this, but like, because every time you run 125, you have to remember if you go back to 124 to do that. Like, it's just, it's a minor friction. But it makes me wonder, like, what it would be like to have the option to decouple the Debian release from the DDEV release? Like, what if you had a DDEV release that supported both 12 and 13 images so that teams could update one and then, do the other transition at the same time?
Yeah, I think I would be pretty overwhelmed with that idea.
Not worth it. I never said it.
By the way, for the traffic thing, I'm pretty sure it made it into 1.25.1. We delete those files that caused that problem on power off.
Mhm.
So that problem should have gone away. So you should be able to flip back and forth between 1.24 and 1.25 now without that problem. So
I suppose you could also, like, it would be reasonable to push a maintenance 124, like, to the previous release to support downgrades if you need, like, if it was like, oh, you can only do this fix when you are running the older version. Um, that could have been something to investigate as well. But, like, I know doing releases is a big deal.
yeah, yeah. Chris mentioned that he hit the MariaDB problem and with requiring TLS, and that actually affected people that were using, especially MariaDB 10.6. And there were workarounds in every case, and DDEV didn't have the problem, but uh, programs like Drush or Typo3, um, uh, Typo3 CMS is it
Typo
didn't do
3
that quite right.
console. Typo
Yeah,
3 console.
yeah. So they use the access to the database on the DDEV web server without without respecting the local configuration in the my.conf. But once again, Stas found his way around that. And of course, the individual tools found their way around it at some level as well. So I think those are all sorted out.
That actually reminds me, if you hadn't heard, Pantheon is going to be switching from MariaDB to MySQL at some point in the future. So I don't know what other hosting providers are like, but with that at least aligns Aqua and Pantheon, and it makes me wonder if MariaDB is on the way out, which makes me sad for other reasons, but it's something that seems to be happening.
Actually, I think it's the opposite. MySQL is in crisis. Oracle has laid off half the team,
No
and
way.
and its governance is in trouble. And so both projects have clearly issues that may affect us all in the future. So there's a lot of things going on in all those places. I just hope that both Acquia and Pantheon will use a supported version of MySQL 8.4 instead of something that's EOL. So
Mhm.
Is that laying off part of the whole software business, deciding that maybe they don't need developers anymore, AI is going to solve it all, and so they're just chopping developers left, right, and center?
I'm not sure, there's been a number of articles questioning MySQL's situation, and what they've been doing with their teams. So I'm not sure. None of it was nothing. I don't think there was even an announcement about it, but the watchers on the outside have noticed that all the teams have been going away. So, and I don't know that Oracle ever cared much about MySQL. I think they just always thought it cut into their core business instead of helping them. But yeah, I don't know the actual answers. But I think both projects have things. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about AI and its impact on DDEV, on the DDEV project. Um, Stas and I are both using Claude Code really very successfully, and it helps us to do things that we probably wouldn't take on otherwise. It's very, very impressive. Not perfect, but because DDEV is such a well-known thing, it's open source, been around, and the open source components that it depends on are out there, and the training, the training set has them. And because Claude Code is pretty amazing, it really, really helps us quite a lot, although it can frustrate us with stupidity sometimes. But one of the things that's the most frustrating, and this is kind of a general problem, is that it can generate code that we may not actually own. Like, back in the old days, we always owned all of our code. We actually had created it. We were responsible for all the bugs, and we understood the bugs when they came up. And AI is more verbose, which causes a heavier weight of code, which is a problem of its own. But we're really profiting from the AI thing in terms of what we can take on. Well, now we have the problem that our users also know how to use Claude Code, and they're creating PRs that are useful, but that they don't know how to fix, and that don't pass the tests, and they don't respond and follow through the PR. And so right now we have 2 or 3 PRs in the queue that are really valid I won't say they're a solution because um, at least one of them doesn't pass any of the tests, but the people that submit them then don't stay with them, right? Because they just figured they'd just toss it over the wall because they could make it with AI, and they didn't run the tests that matter locally, even though they could have told Claude to run those too. And so the weight of what our own work with AI does, in addition to the weight of what random people dropping by with AI generated PRs, the impact, it's very confusing because this stuff, as you all know, you're all impacted by this. There's the really good new potential new techniques. It's affecting us all forever. And it also has the problem of rotting our brain and filling our world with code that we do not necessarily fully know how to own. And then there's injections that never would have happened before because there was more of an entry barrier. And I'm interested in all of your thoughts about that. And um, I don't think there's any solutions, but I'm interested in your thoughts.
I think any PR that's dropped into the queue that isn't being supported by the person who submitted that PR, you should just throw out. And I know that there might be some interesting good work that's coming out of it, but if the person isn't in a position to be able to support it, whether it's AI generated or not, and they go quiet after they've submitted the PR, um, I I I would caution that might create too much effort for this small team to be able to support on their own. Um, so personally, I would put a policy in place It's fine for things to be generated by with AI, but you need to be in a position that you can help support that code. Um,
I'm quite sure that that is, I don't know whether we'll need a policy as such, but I'm quite sure that's what we'll actually do. We'll
yeah.
just we'll just say, hey, this didn't get finished, it hasn't been followed up, so we're closing it for now, but you're welcome back. Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of open source projects, and they seem to widely have a staling process where that there's a bot that goes through and just closes tickets that haven't been acted on in a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
So it's possible, like I think that's pretty much expectation in open source these days is like, okay, I haven't touched this in a year, of course it's going to get closed, or like even a month. Like it depends on your threshold, I guess. But I think that's expectation in open source, and like if you follow up and say like, "Oh, this needs a little bit of work," and you don't hear back, just close the ticket, sort of thing. I think that's
That's
in
that's what
addition to the
we'll
policy, possibly. Yeah,
that's what we'll do. I
yeah.
noticed that some groups are actually um, debating disallowing AI generated, like the Go team
That's a mistake.
is
Yeah.
considering just saying, forget it. But I think that's just, this kind of thing, um, it doesn't help. And our problem isn't different with people making PRs that they don't fully support, and so they have to be closed. It's just that a couple of the PRs recently have been far bigger and then also not supported. So
Mhm.
usually you can look at them and say, well, I think I know what this is. I know what's wrong with it. Here's some feedback. And if they go away and it's not worth our time to finish it for them, then we do close it. Stas often sees the value and just finishes it for them.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's sometimes it's easier to do it this way.
Well, if
Yeah,
it's stuff
But
you were
I
going to do
think but
anyway,
also that's a path to burnout, right? Like I
it
think we
is.
need to be very, very careful about the energy that we put into our open source projects because while we might get paid for some of the work, a lot of the work we don't get paid for, and we're doing it out of love, right? And that can, whether it's purposeful or not purposeful, that can be abused and can seriously impact a project by burning people out. So just be very, very careful about what you take on. I love DDEV, and I would hate to see things, I would hate to see things sort of spiral out of control.
I think
Yeah.
that's good advice, especially for Stas.
Mm.
No, I really think we are very, very mindful of burnout, but it can come up behind you, especially if you care as much as Stas does, and I do too. You can see these things and not want them to go to waste and want to do it. So that's important. So you're going
I'm
to say something, someone? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious when you said because we're using tools that we're generating code that we don't own, are you talking about copyright that
No.
would
No.
what
I'm
would
talking about the sense of ownership of I built this, I understand everything about it. I understand every choice made in the code that was developed,
okay,
and I
yeah,
know exactly how to debug it when something goes wrong.
yeah.
Um, that's what I was saying about ownership.
Okay,
Mm.
because I mean, my take on is this is just a tool. This is a really cool, interesting, kind of dumb tool, kind of amazing tool, and whether I use it or not, it's just my choice of toolage. And it does change things for us, significantly. Of course, it's um, some of us have coded for a long, long time, so we've seen things develop from IDEs and all sorts of useful tools. But I don't see the need to do a policy to say don't submit AI generated stuff. I mean, I think it's a case by case basis. Like someone generates something that's going to just wow whiz bang make DDEV go to some new level. It might be worth looking at. It might be interesting to
Oh,
look at.
Yeah, I think that the impact on all of us is unknown from so many different directions, and we're just having to fight our way through it. But like Matthew's statement of don't get suckered in, and die and drown there. That's an easy one, right? Well, it's easy to say, but that's an easy one. It's an easy policy. The other one's about how the impact on us and our users and our contributors of using this new tool and all the things that we have to learn how to control it and use it well. Those are all pretty hard things, and those are there's more to it. I think I will skip over the coder issue. Coder.com is an open source project that we are experimenting with self-hosting as a replacement for Gitpod, and it can affect some other things. But I did want to mention Michael has extended his time for 2 minutes, so we'll do the financials while he's here for those 2 minutes. Our sponsorships have made it up to 71%, which isn't moving as fast as it was in January, but it's great. And we have about $9,000 in the bank. It's a little more than usual because this time of year, a couple of, shall we call them monthly sponsors that pay annually have paid their annual invoices. So we have slightly more than we usually do at the end of the month. Our reports are there. Any comments or questions about the financials in general?
I mean, the only thing I'm going to say is now that I have Florida DrupalCon behind me, my goal is by DrupalCon in 2-3 weeks from now. I want to put together a fundraising campaign, like a limited time fundraising campaign, starting around DrupalCon. I'm actually going to prepare a printout for DrupalCon that I can go talk to some of the larger organizations about becoming monthly sponsors. But then after that, I'm gonna be bugging everyone, here and on the rest of the advisory board to help spread the word. I'm gonna have like a whole little plan put together about spreading the word and see if we can't, get that percentage closer to 100%. But if anybody wants to give me a hand with that stuff, the planning and the material is not going to be a big deal. What I can absolutely use a hand with is if you have contacts at organizations who you think we should talk to, that would be like an introduction would be fantastic. But yeah, I will have more information forthcoming before DrupalCon about all that.
Excellent. If any of you are going to DrupalCon, this is kind of a side thing. Ask Bernardo for a t-shirt. I have about 3 of them, but Bernardo has several more. So if you don't have a DDEV t-shirt, ask Bernardo for one. So thank you very much, Michael. That's a great initiative. And I hope it's very successful at DrupalCon and otherwise, and have a great day.
All right. See y'all later.
Thanks a bunch. So anyway, the coder.com thing, I think what I'll do is I will it's easy to get stuck on because it's got no boundaries. Like it's already better than Gitpod was. It's already amazing and faster, and it's better than code spaces. I mean, for our particular purpose, and it could replace what we used to have for DrupalPod for mentoring at DrupalCon. But I don't think I can do any justice to it here. So I'm not sure first of all, I'm not sure how to get it done. And second of all, I'm not sure how to get people's experience. And most of all, I'm not sure about the governance. Right now, anybody can log in to coder.ddev.com with their GitHub account and do anything they want. So you are welcome to do that. And there are 3 different templates there that are interesting and fun, and you're welcome to do that. And I'd love to have your feedback. It has some rough edges and it doesn't have any real documentation, but it's definitely fun. Like there's a Drupal core one that'll just spin up a current Drupal core head perfectly fine every time, and it's pretty quick. So, and you can do, I can do DDEV development there, all in the cloud, like we used to do with Gitpod, but faster. So it's got some potential. I'm not, like I say, I'm not sure how to get it to done because I'm not sure what done is. There any DDEV related things on anybody's mind? Issues, concerns, happiness, any of those other kind of things? Anything, any problems or anything else that you want to talk about?
Who's going to be at DrupalCon?
I will.
I'll be there.
Any other places you're going, Randy?
What's that?
Any other conferences you've got in the next month or
No,
two?
actually, I don't have any other on the agenda at all. I usually go to Colorado because it's a 4-hour drive. I don't know whether I don't have anything else on the plans. I'm taking the train from Grand Junction to Chicago. It'll be like 32 hours on the train or something. I hope I don't hate myself on the way back. I bought a round trip ticket. I hope I don't hate myself after going, getting there and feeling like I have to go back that way. So the California Zephyr.
Oh,
So
trains are fun. On a very different topic, what are people's feelings about the state of Drupal? Look, enough Drupal is here. I'm noticing, for example, that I'm getting more job offers than I have of late, or job interest from LinkedIn people and stuff. So it looks to me like it's picking up again, but I'm curious what folks are seeing. I'm hearing Andrew say that they're doing a WordPress project. That's a little scary, but
I am
Well,
guardedly optimistic. I think way back in the day when we released Drupal 8, it kind of screwed over all the little guys, the hobbyists. It screwed over the little church or the bodego or the Boy Scout troop. It made it much more difficult for them to actually make use of the tool. I feel like with Drupal 10 and Drupal 11 and the corresponding Drupal CMS plus Canvas plus Drupal AI, it feels like there's a change that's starting to happen. I think we're going to know a whole lot more in about a year as to whether we see utilization of Drupal increase. And whether our market share starts to increase a little bit. But personally, I'm seeing more people showing interest again. I'm seeing an uptick in questions coming to me personally and also professionally. Um, so yeah, I'm guardedly optimistic that maybe this giant cargo ship is actually starting to turn around.
Benny, can you say anything about Typo 3 and what situation you think is with Typo 3?
I would say it's a similar situation, not similar, but Typo 3 is picking up in the whole government and public sector. And the latest development for the next version coming out in a month is is really focusing on, ease of use and making all the pains that have been around for years finally go away. So this could be attractive to people who said, well, open source was fun, but we're over this. uh, and they get back to use open source because compared to all the vibe coding, tools and plain HTML or Markdown versions, people come out with every week, basically. The longer an open source system is around, the more um, reputation is there that doesn't go away within a day, a week, a year, and I think that's the sustainable part. And we see this that the content management systems that have been around for, let's say, 5 years are either proprietary or they're gone because they just didn't have that huge of a user base. And I think that's good where we are and what we do. And then, of course, it's challenging, but it's more about telling the story about open source more and more.
Is Typo 3 comparable to Drupal in terms of product?
Yeah. You could say it's like the European version of it. um, so it has a similar feature set, I would say.
It's also used pretty heavily in Africa.
Yeah.
Typo 3
I would say that the features that it's the same are similar.
The Typo 3 is far stronger in multi-site. Drupal has a very, very sad little multi-site.
Yeah.
And Typo 3 really understands it. And the whole content governance, Typo 3 has been way ahead of Drupal for years and years. So they have lots of great university stuff and things like that. So very impressive. It's a little complicated, but very impressive.
Yeah.
I think products that like at that scale tend to be complicated. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we do a lot of multilingual stuff, like to my customers typically have like 20 to 30 translations of a page that you do inside the system. Yeah.
Wow, that's got to sting. I think in the US, I mean, the fact that the US government is being dismantled so significantly is definitely cost us clients.
Yeah.
I mean that's been absolutely brutal. I mean my sweetie's she's a research scientist and all the funding for everything has gone away. She lives off grants and she's like they're dried up. These poor research people are just wondering what to do with themselves because there's no money. So I'd suspect that that's significantly impacting, some of these CMS products too.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the end of our time, and I know you all have other commitments, and I really appreciate you coming and love being in touch with you. Love hearing what you're thinking and experiencing and that kind of thing. Feel free to hang around if you would like. Mark and I want to talk about Git work trees a little bit, and feel free to hang around if you want to talk about anything else.
Thanks for inviting me, Randy. Really appreciate it.
Great to have you.